Okay, so you're on stream. Do the countdown when you're ready to go.
Yeah, no worries, will do.
Good luck on the run.
I'll need it, that's for sure. Thanks, man. Yeah, hello everyone that's watching right now. Speed Stuff for Charity. I am the BPG13, and this is Colin McRae Rally for Game Boy Color. We're going to be doing Championship Percent, aka the Novice Championship, the Novice difficulty. And it's going to be a short run, so nothing too long. And yeah, so timer will start in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. So it's relatively straightforward, this game. It's set in a top-down approach, as with most Game Boy Color games that I play sometimes. And due to its counterpart, it does have a console counterpart, this game, as does near enough most games. However, this game was released on multiple platforms: PC, PlayStation 1, and Game Boy Color. The longest version out of the bunch is the PlayStation 1 and PC versions, with the Game Boy Color coming in a lot shorter, as you'll be able to tell. We will be cutting some corners on stages just to make them a little bit shorter. So one of the main ones that we cut would be to go up to here, at which point we turn right, just like that, makes this a bit shorter. Now you can go across grass on some of these bits over here, as well as the rock faces over here, but be warned, do not hit the fence, because if you do, your car slows down. Now I'm going to take it very cautious for this run, because I don't want to be damaging my car too much and losing too much time. There's 3 rallies in the Novice. In the main game I believe there is 6 to 8 rallies. I'm not quite sure of how many, about 6 I'd say. But for Novice is only 3. There is New Zealand, Greece and Austria, or Monte Carlo, whichever version of the game you might run. But as for the actual game itself, like I said, there's 3 rallies. They've got 2 stages each, which makes this run exceedingly short. The world record time, I believe, for this game is around 14 minutes 20 something, which is held by CD Romatron. He played on the official Game Boy Color itself. I'm obviously playing on Gambit, which is a Game Boy Color emulator, which emulates the load times and things like that of the Game Boy Color. As you can see, the game itself is relatively straightforward, for the most part anyway. And it's not too difficult, and in practice I think there was only a slight bit of a few accidents, so I've not done too much. Luckily most of the stage is relatively straightforward. We will need to make a tyre change though in Monte Carlo, Austria, whichever you want to call it. That's because the game defaults you to dry grooves, which are the dry tyres, and in Austria, Monte Carlo, whichever you prefer, it is all snow and ice. So dry tyres, yeah, you'd be literally driving on an ice rink. There is a small little shortcut that you can do with this stage, which involves cutting between a few rocks and things like that. Just to play it safe, I'm not going to do that, just because I don't want to mess the car up and mess my lines up and everything like that. That comes about halfway through this stage, for the most part anyway. I think out of everything for this game, it's like I say, it's very, very short, but for the intermediate and expert levels, obviously you get more powerful cars for those sort of championships. So this is the Volkswagen Golf, what we are using. There's also the Ford Escort, which you can also use. But for the intermediate and the expert levels, you can play with much faster, much more difficult cars to drive. Obviously this will result in longer stages and things like that. So it's not like I said, it's not too long, this game, for the most part, for the run. The actual PlayStation 1, its PlayStation 1 counterpart, as we try and do a little scudge through there. We have the PlayStation 1 version, and currently that record is at 56 minutes and 27 seconds, I believe. That is currently held by myself, although there is people popping up every now and again that try and challenge that time. or have tried to better that time and fortunately I haven't succeeded. In regardless to that anyway. The console version purely is obviously the better looking one because it doesn't follow this top-down approach. And the one thing I will mention, I have not mentioned it already, so I do apologise, is that you'll notice from this perspective, the game works on a weird technique. So, from the drop-down perspective, if you say turn right, that means turn right from the direction you are facing. Most of the time, if it says left, it's not exactly left on the actual game screen itself. So like I said, as of right now, it's not going too badly, it's going alright actually for the most part. But for this game it is very hard to get a good run going, mainly because of the stages and things like that. Not really a lot else to say other than that. This last bit's fairly straightforward, so you just go over a few jumps and across the line. Nice and easy. And that is the first rally done. I'm going to skip through all of this real quick. And now we're on to Greece, which is the second rally. Again, relatively straightforward. It's not too difficult, Greece. I never had any problems with it. Austria, Monte Carlo is the one that is fairly difficult. Like I said, in regards to its console counterparts, this game is relatively easy. For a first time person picking it up, it probably will take you around a margin of maybe 15-16 minutes. If you get used to handling pretty quickly, but if it's something like your first time playing this, then you shouldn't have any problems finishing it in any more than 20 minutes, something like that. Like I said, the one problem with games like this being on a top-down approach means you need to learn the stages inside and out for a game like this. Unfortunately, this game was something I only picked up a few months ago and started to learn for speedrunning. I've mainly been playing the console counterpart, so the PlayStation 1 PC versions of the game. Obviously this was the first game in the series to start things off, as it were, for Colin McRae, the Colin McRae Rally series. As I go a bit wide into the trees there, that was a bit of an accident. No bother, we can still carry on. I have to make sure that I don't hit too many of these corners too hard. So one thing that is fairly difficult, like I said, is lining your acceleration, your braking and your cornering together in these stages. I've had many different problems with it, and my personal best run of this game is fairly rubbish, looking against the world record run, but even he said that his run was fairly rubbish and that he can improve it in a big way. The one thing I have not mentioned yet is there is actually multiple, like I said, there's multiple games in the Colin McRae Rally series, this being the first one to kick things off, as it were, back in 1998. The Game Boy Color version coming in 2001, I believe, or late 1999, I'm not quite sure of the date, but yeah, for its time it was seen as an absolutely fantastic game. Obviously nowadays I still continue to play it and still love playing the PlayStation 1 version. I just enjoy it more than anything else. But there's all different versions, and also in terms of speedrunning, this series has gained in popularity quite a bit since last year. Not as popular as other racer series have, like Need for Speed and such, but it's on the up. You know, it's rising slowly. We're getting people in it who obviously we've never seen speedrun before, and people have never thought of this as a game to speedrun because they thought, well, you know, it's A to B, why should they? But when they've looked into it more and decide, hey, do you know what? That's a game that I really want to speedrun. People have actually considered this and they've decided to speedrun with us. So it's always on the uprise. And I mean, as a community, as Colin McRae Rally is a community, the speedrunning community that is, it's fantastic to see that we're getting people in. I mean, originally when I turned up to the speedrunning thing, there was probably no more than 5 or 6 people. Now we've got around 25 to 30 people in there, all doing speedruns in the different games as a whole. It's a bit weird to see how much of a community, how much it's grown, because as a whole, a lot of us didn't think that it would grow. I had confidence, but I didn't expect it to grow as much as it did. I mean, alright, 30 people doesn't sound like a lot, but for us that is quite a bit. Like I said, we're always looking for new people to speedrun some games. It doesn't matter which game you speedrun, and as a matter of fact, whilst we're on the subject, we're hosting our own speedrunning event. Not events such as this one for charity, but it's a speedrunning race where you have to speedrun all of the Colin McRae rally games, the console versions that is, not the handheld versions. And that will be taking place on Saturday the 4th of August this year. The reason for that date is most people think, oh, it's just a date, but the reason for the date is because we're actually doing it on Colin McRae's birthday. So when Colin McRae died, that's Greystone by the way. Originally he died in 2007 in a tragic helicopter crash, and since then he's obviously been dead. He's been deceased, but we thought it'd be great to have it on his birthday as a celebration of him turning, I think it's 51 this year, or his 50th birthday this year, so we think it'll be a great way to honour him in a way. So this is Austria, the last rally in the game, and as you can tell already, it is very, very slippy, very slow and very difficult, and there's a lot of hairpins. Don't be surprised if I end up hitting a few walls, because this game, like I said, this game loves its walls. It's very tentative, sort of like Monte Carlo in the Formula 1 scene. But yeah, we're doing the event. We've called it McRae-a-thon. I mean, honestly, firstly it was an event that was sketched upon with a friend of ours, somebody that's in the Colin McRae Rally community. He joined it, I think, a couple of months ago, but he's called Deathmaster D, and me and him were talking one night, and he came up with the idea of possibly doing like a marathon or a speedrun race regarding the Colin McRae Rally games. And I took that into consideration. I thought, well, how would it work, and what would we do? Anyway, obviously, I looked into it further and everything, and surprised him, saying we've announced this. As we bash into a few trees there, take out a few cones, because screw the cones. Yeah, originally he came up with the idea, and it's all credit to him, really. I'm not going to take the credit for it. It wasn't me that came up with the idea. He was the one that came up with the idea. Yeah, hopefully, ideally, what we're after to do is try and get as many people involved as we can. Obviously, we're not a big community, so we're not asking for 400 people or anything, a huge amount of people to enter. But if we could get quite a few people watching and a few people entering the event themselves and participating, then that would be fantastic. We've even had a chat about it mainly, and said that if it's a good enough event, as if it proves to be good and it goes down quite well with people on Twitch, and it has a good audience, it's well received, then we may consider doing it once a year, or maybe even twice a year. At the moment, it's a once a year event, but it'll be more or less twice a year. Also, this is the last stage in the game. This is how quick the run's over. So this is the last stage in the game. So time will be coming up when I've crossed the line. I'll say time when it's done. But yeah, it's a very short route, this one. But we obviously, like I said, as a community, we are looking to grow. So if anyone feels like they are into these sort of games, not this one in particular, but if they're into Colin McRae Rally or they used to play it as a kid, feel free to come and join our Discord and our speedrunning community. We guarantee we're not toxic to one another and things like that. I know there are some communities out there, not racing ones, just some communities that can be toxic to one another, but we're not one of them communities. Everyone gets along and supports one another and things like that. We've actually attracted a few, I think, from other racing series, so from the Need for Speed guys and also the Burnout side of things as well. So it's interesting, to see people join and things like that. So yeah, I do apologise that this is probably a quite bizarre racing game for people to see, but it's very short. It's a very short game, and like I said, it's a game that, for me personally, I'm not a huge fan of the Game Boy Color version, but I am a fan of the games in general. You know, the console version, the PlayStation 1, the PlayStation 2, whatever console it may be on, PC. You can get, I think you can get all games, all of the Colin McRae Rally games are available on PC. There's obviously patches and stuff that you'll probably need to do with the older ones so you can get them working. So the first two, I think, require a patch. The third and fourth one usually works straight off, and I think 2005 works straight off the bat as well. Ooh. So I think we're coming up just short of the end of the run now. And that's time. And that is it. I think it was 14:50 I've got on my timer, but that's it. That's how short it is. Literally 3 rallies, 2 stages apiece, not too bad. 14:53, very nice. Yeah, just want to quickly say, give a quick shout out to the guys over at the Colin McRae Rally Discord, because without them, I think our community wouldn't be as organised and as fun as it is. We have a few races every now and again, speedrun races, but we're always looking for new speedrunners in that regard. So, but yeah, I think that's about wrap it up really. But yeah, if you want to pass it over to next runner, feel free to. I think I've helped you catch up by about 5 minutes there, but yeah. Thanks to everyone for watching. I do know, apologise, it was very, very short, but that's how short the game is. And yeah, thanks for having me. Thanks for watching. Thanks very much.